If you've been studying French and learning it quite consistently, and that you achieve somewhat of a level, chances are you can and you will drastically improve the way you sound and the way people perceive you when you speak French with those simple changes. Because let's face it, when people find out that you're not a native speaker at the first word you say, it kind of sucks, and we want to avoid that. The goal here would be to at least being able to start a conversation without people knowing that you're not a native, and it feels great. So without any further ado, let's dive in. But first, before we start, I'd like to inform you that the registrations for my summer classes 2023 are open. It's going to be group classes of French divided into two levels, intermediate and beginner. It's going to be fun. I'm going to teach you everything I know about French and how to learn the language, and hopefully this is the last class you'll ever need. So sign up with the link in my description and hopefully I meet you there. The first thing I'm going to start with is it's actually before you start speaking, when you look for your words and when you hesitate, when you stutter. You didn't see that coming, did you? There is a unique way to search for your words and to think aloud in every language. For English, it would give something like, I don't know, see, something like this. And if you do this, if you keep those mimics, those little hesitation sounds in French, you will be perceived as a person that cannot speak very well French right away, even though you are able to speak French and you just don't know your words. That happens to everyone, right? Even in our own native language. But if you start to hesitate in that way, you won't sound French at all. Rather, you want to sound something like, you see the difference between which is very nasal, and just in your mouth. And you can use something like ba is well, by the way. Je sais pas. See? What we like to do is to stretch the last syllable. So if you ended with something like les vacances, you see what I'm doing here? Vacances, holidays, I'm just taking the last syllable and stretching it. That's the proper way to stutter and to look for your words in French. Alright, moving on. Second point is the way you structure the words is actually very important. That's a big difference between English and French, and that makes French people struggle a lot to learn English, but the other way around is true as well, because the English language is very stressed. When you say a word that is a few syllables long, you have to put an emphasis on one of the syllables, otherwise it doesn't sound correct. It's not even understandable. If I say understandable, if I say understandable, it doesn't really, what do you mean? Understandable? Neither. Understandable, this is the correct way of saying it. But French is not a stressed language, almost not. There is a little bit of a stress on the last syllable. So if you want to put a stress, you can on the last syllable. If it's not ending with an E, in that case that will be the second to last. But even then, I'm going to show you the difference between, well, the word difference. Difference in English and in French, it is différence. Différence. Difference, différence. There are many examples like this, like comfortable, confortable. Comfortable, confortable, or important, 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 important. So we do put a little bit of an emphasis at the end of the word, but it's never stressed in a way where the syllables before that or after that are just said very fast. If you say something in French like you would say in English, but if you put the emphasis in the right position, but you try to go through the first syllables too fast, it doesn't sound good either. Something like différence, différence, not very understandable. Rather, you want to say something like différence. The voice volume can go up, but not the speed. Understand? Okay, number 3, the way you pronounce your vowels. This is very important. And yet again, it's another great difference between French and English. In English, most vowels are diphthongs. Even single vowels are diphthongs. For example, E, that's a diphthong. O, diphthong, by the way, just to define for those who don't know, it's when a sound is made of two sounds. For example, O is A and U. That fades together. O. And French barely has that. And even when it has diphthongs, it sounds different. So I'm going to tell you how to aim for that dryness that the French language has in comparison to the English, that is very soft and rounded. So when you say a French vowel, let's say O. O is a great example. O, the French O is O. And it's very dry because my mouth remains in the same position and I can stretch it for very long. O. In English you can stretch it, but you have to make it round, right? O. You see? O. You can make the test yourself. If you can stretch it for as long as you want, it means that you can say it properly. If you do pronounce the vowels in the English way, even with like a good pronunciation and a good grammar, it sounds weird. It sounds something like j'aimerais un verre d'eau, s'il vous plaît. You see what I'm doing? J'aimerais un verre d'eau, s'il vous plaît. This doesn't sound good. We can tell instantly that you're not a French native. So what you want to do is cut abruptly and keep everything well static, if that makes sense. Well constant. So it will be better to say j'aimerais un verre d'eau, s'il vous plaît. J'aimerais un verre d'eau, s'il vous plaît. You see? The mouth is pretty much still when you say a syllable, vowel. Oh my god. Okay, but when it comes to diphthongs in French, there's also a difference. For example, we, as in we in English, and we in French don't sound the same, but they should sound the same because it's taking the sound oo to e. But the French way of saying that is much more abrupt. It's much faster. We. My point here is to make everything as dry as possible to sound better. Okay, moving on. Your pace in French is very important, as in any language. But I think in French there is another layer that we need to, like another myth that we need to deconstruct. French people are very, very fast speakers. Actually, I'm struggling to speak in English sometimes because I want to speak so fast, because I can speak so fast in French. But in English, it's a bit harder for all the reasons that we talked about, the diphthongs, the structure, the contrast, and everything. And there is this thing in the mind of people that speak French that there's this idea that they should speak as fast as possible to match the French people's pace. But the thing is, it can work if you're very comfortable with the language and you don't do any mistake, if you know your words and the structures and everything. But in most cases, it isn't the case. So what ends up happening is that people speak very fast, but they also stutter a lot and they make some breaks. So they take some breaks in their speech and it's very abrupt, and it gives something like if they're trying to speak very fast and then after they can have it, they can't say it properly. You see how it's not very cool, and it even got me out of my flow. Anyway, it doesn't sound good, and you don't need to speak fast to speak well in French. Au contraire, if you speak slower with a steady and slow pace, you will seem more fluent, you will pronounce everything better, and you will appear more confident, calmer, and that's what we want. And it's actually a self-reinforcing behavior. Okay, so if you have the habit of speaking fast in French and trying to rush through your words, there's a couple of things you can do. Check in on your speech every once in a while to see if your flow, it doesn't have to be very slow, but if your flow is constant, you need to have a constant flow to appear more fluent and to be more understood. If you see that you're getting too fast and then it's starting to be sloppy, take a break. The person you're talking with is not going to go away. Just take a 3-second break. Inhale without a stuffed nose, it works better. Inhale. Get some oxygen in your brain. It actually helps a lot. Your brain is so much more efficient when it's well oxygenated. And continue, but with a slow pace. And when you do this, your ideas will be clearer and you'll get your point across with less words, with fewer words. And the thing is, it doesn't require any more language skills to speak more clearly by slowing down your speech and by appearing more confident. You are the same speaker. You have the same knowledge of French, you have the same skills, but you're just using them better. So keep that in mind next time you speak French with someone. And actually, there's something you need to know. When you start speaking with a new speaker, especially if it's a native speaker, you will have this period of adaptation to that speaker, because everyone has their own accent, their own vocabulary, their own way of expressing themselves. So there's always going to be the first 30 seconds are going to be awkward and hard. So it's very important that you set the pace at first and you don't try to rush through things when you are in that awkward phase, and then later in the conversation, just 1 or 2 minutes later, you will be much more comfortable to speak and it's just gonna flow better. Okay, moving on to my last point. Okay, there's something you can use in the French culture to appear more fluent and to be a bit more like a chameleon, meaning this is going to be about shadowing people when they speak. Usually when we talk with friends, it's not rude, but it's weird to just stay silent and wait for the person to finish talking. No, what we rather do is something like, oh, okay, yeah, oh, I see, there is this in English, but it's just much more common in French, in my opinion. And if you do this, you will show the person that you understand. Well, of course, you have to understand first, it's one of the prerequisites, but that you understand and that you're following them. And it will make them more comfortable. If they know that you're not a native speaker, it will take a weight off of their chest, because when French people are speaking with natives, with non-natives, they want to switch to English because they're afraid they won't understand. So if you give them that confirmation, you will tell them that you are understanding and that they maybe can go faster, and they'll be more comfortable around that. And it actually shows that you have some interest in the conversation as well, so it's very appreciated. So when you're talking with someone in French, just reuse some of the words or say, oh oui, okay, d'accord, je vois. There's like a lot of little words like this you can use. Je vois, d'accord, ah oui, ah bon, and then you can ask questions. Oh, et ça s'est passé comment? Thank you for watching. I hope that it was interesting for you, that you learned some new things, and I hope that those tips will help you be a better speaker in French. Of course, it requires that you already can speak French. If you can't speak French already, just keep them in mind and you'll put them to use later once you know how to speak better. Thank you for watching. À bientôt.